Sometimes the best decisions we make in life happen when we are not thinking at all. We simply stop and help someone in need. On an empty road stands a luxury car, broken down. Next to it waits a woman in an elegant suit. Thomas Novotny is just driving by in his old pickup truck. He is just an ordinary mechanic from the small town of Bystris. His whole life he has worked honestly. His hands are stained with oil. Under his nails is dust. He never expected great things, just decent work and a quiet life. But tonight, everything will change. The woman by that car is not just another driver. She is Marketa Horakova, Chief Executive Officer of the largest technology company in the country, and she is looking for someone exceptional. Before we return to the story, tell us where you are watching from. And if this story touched you, definitely subscribe, because tomorrow I have prepared something extraordinarily special for you. Sometimes the best decisions we make in life happen when we are not thinking at all. We simply stop and help someone in need. On an empty road stands a luxury car broken down. Next to it waits a woman in an elegant suit. Thomas Novotny is just driving by in his old pickup truck. He is just an ordinary mechanic from the small town of Bystris. His whole life he has worked honestly. His hands are stained with oil. Under his nails is dust. He never expected great things, just decent work and a quiet life. But tonight, everything will change. The woman by that car is not just another driver. She is Marketa Horakova, Chief Executive Officer of the largest technology company in the country, and she is looking for someone exceptional. Before we return to the story, tell us where you are watching from, and if this story touched you, definitely subscribe, because tomorrow I have prepared something extraordinarily special for you. Thomas Novotny had lived in Bystris his entire life. It was a small town where everyone knew everyone, the kind of place where people still waved to each other on the street, where a handshake meant something, where your word was your bond. He had learned the trade from his father, Joseph, who had learned it from his father before him. 3 generations of Novotny men, all with grease under their fingernails and pride in their hearts. The garage sat on the corner of Hlavny Street and Zahradny Road. It was not much to look at from the outside. The paint had faded years ago. The sign creaked in the wind. But inside it was a cathedral of honest work. Tools hung in their proper places. The floor was swept clean every evening. Every bolt, every wrench, every part had its home. Thomas opened the garage at 7 in the morning, 6 days a week. He closed it at 6 in the evening, sometimes later if someone needed help. He never turned anyone away. His father had taught him that. "A man does not choose when to be decent," Joseph used to say. "Decency is not a coat you put on when the weather suits you. It is who you are, all the time, no matter what." Thomas was 42 years old. He had never married. There had been someone once, back when he was younger. Her name was Lenka. She had dreams bigger than Bystris could hold. She wanted to see the world, to live in the capital, to become someone important. Thomas had wanted to stay, to take over his father's garage, to build a life in the town where he belonged. They had parted ways on good terms, no anger, no bitterness, just 2 people who wanted different things. Sometimes he thought about her, wondered where she was, if she had found what she was looking for. But mostly he was content. He had his work. He had his routines. He had the respect of his neighbors. On Tuesday mornings, he had coffee with old Peter from the bakery. On Thursday evenings, he played cards with 3 friends from school. On Sundays, he visited his mother's grave and told her about his week. It was a simple life, but it was his. The day had started like any other. A farmer's tractor needed a new alternator. A teacher's sedan required an oil change. A young couple brought in their first car, worried about a strange noise that turned out to be nothing serious. Thomas fixed each problem with care. He explained everything in simple terms. He never charged more than was fair. By 6 in the evening, he was cleaning up, wiping down the workbenches, organizing the tools, sweeping the floor. His back ached a little. His knees complained when he bent down. These were the small pains of a life spent working with his hands. He did not mind them. They were honest pains, earned through honest labor. He locked the garage and climbed into his pickup truck. It was 20 years old, dents in the bumper, rust around the wheel wells. But the engine ran smooth because he took care of it. He knew every sound it made, every quirk and habit. It was like an old friend. The evening was warm. Summer was settling over the countryside. The fields on either side of the road were green and gold. The sun was lowering toward the horizon, painting everything in shades of amber and rose. Thomas rolled down his window. Let the breeze wash over him. This was his favorite time of day, when the work was done and the evening stretched ahead, when he could just drive and think about nothing in particular. The road out of town was quiet. Few people drove this way in the evening. It wound through farmland and patches of forest, past old barns and stone walls, past the creek where he used to fish as a boy. He knew every curve, every dip, every landmark. He was thinking about dinner. Maybe he would stop by the store, pick up some bread and cheese. There was soup left over from yesterday. Something simple and satisfying. Then he saw it. A car on the side of the road, hood raised, hazard lights blinking. Even from a distance, he could tell it was expensive. One of those sleek foreign models that cost more than he made in several years. The kind of car you did not see often in Bystris. He slowed down. His instinct was always to stop. His father's voice echoed in his mind. You see someone in trouble, you help. Does not matter who they are, does not matter if it is convenient, you help. He pulled over behind the car, put his truck in park, grabbed his toolbox from the back. As he walked toward the car, he saw her. A woman, maybe in her late 30s or early 40s. She wore a dark blue suit that looked tailored and expensive. Her hair was pulled back neatly. She was on her phone, pacing beside the car, her expression tight with frustration. When she saw him approaching, she ended the call. There was relief in her eyes, but also wariness. People from the city always looked at him that way at first, taking in his work clothes, his weathered face, his calloused hands, trying to decide if he could be trusted. "Hello," he said. "Looks like you have some trouble." She nodded. "The engine just died. I was driving and suddenly everything shut off. I do not know anything about cars. I called for a tow truck, but they said it would be at least 2 hours. He set down his toolbox. "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated for just a moment, then stepped aside. "Please. If you can help, I would be very grateful." He leaned over the engine. It was a beautiful piece of machinery. Clean, sophisticated, expensive. But machines were machines. They all worked on the same basic principles. He checked the battery connections first. Tight and clean. He checked the fuel lines. No obvious leaks. He asked her to try starting it. She got in and turned the key. Nothing. not even a click. He thought for a moment. Then he noticed something. A small detail that someone less experienced might have missed. The main fuse box had a loose connection. Simple. Almost too simple for a car this expensive. But that was often how it was. The complicated problems looked simple. The simple problems looked complicated. "You have pliers in your car?" he asked. She shook her head. He went back to his truck, found what he needed, returned, and made the adjustment. Just a matter of reseating the connection properly. "Try it now," he said. She turned the key. The engine purred to life. Smooth and powerful. She looked at him with genuine surprise. "You fixed it, just like that." He shrugged. "It was not much, just a loose connection. Lucky I happened by." She stepped out of the car, looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing," he said. "Happy to help." She frowned. "No, I should pay you. You saved me hours of waiting." He shook his head. "It took 5 minutes. Would not feel right taking money for that." She studied him for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out a puzzle. "What is your name?" "Thomas," he said. "Thomas Novotny. I have a garage in Bystris, just down the road." "I am Marketa," she said. She did not offer a last name. She reached into her car and pulled out a business card, held it out to him. "If you ever need anything at all, please call me." He took the card, glanced at it. Marketa Horakova, Chief Executive Officer. The name of a company he recognized. Everyone recognized it. One of the biggest technology firms in the country. He looked up at her. "You are—" "Yes," she said. "I am?" He did not know what to say. He had just helped one of the most powerful people in the country fix her car, and he had refused payment. She smiled. It was a genuine smile. Warm and real. "You did not recognize me. Most people do." He felt his face flush. "Sorry. I do not pay much attention to the news." She laughed. "Do not apologize. It is refreshing." She got back into her car. "Thank you, Thomas Novotny. You may have done more for me tonight than you realize." Before he could ask what she meant, she drove away. The expensive car disappeared down the road, leaving him standing there with her business card in his oil-stained hand. He looked at it again. The paper was thick and expensive. The lettering was embossed. He shook his head, tucked the card into his pocket, and climbed back into his truck. Strange evening, he thought. But that was life, full of strange moments and unexpected encounters. He drove home, made his simple dinner, sat in his quiet house. But something felt different, like the air had shifted, like something had begun that he did not yet understand. 3 days passed before anything happened. 3 ordinary days of ordinary work. Thomas fixed a delivery van's transmission. He replaced brake pads on a school bus. He helped young Martin from the hardware store diagnose a problem with his motorcycle. The business card stayed in his pocket. He took it out once or twice, looked at the name, the title, the phone number, then put it back. What would someone like him have to say to someone like her? They lived in different worlds. She had probably already forgotten about him. On Friday afternoon, a black sedan pulled up in front of the garage. It was polished to a mirror shine. The windows were tinted dark, the kind of car that did not belong in Bystris. Thomas was under a truck, replacing an oil pan gasket. He heard the car door open and close. heard footsteps on the concrete. He slid out from under the truck, wiping his hands on a rag. A man in a dark suit stood in the doorway. He was young, maybe 30. He wore sunglasses even though he was inside. He looked around the garage like he was inspecting it. "Are you Thomas Novotny?" the man asked. His voice was formal, professional. Thomas stood up. "I am." The man reached into his jacket. For a strange moment, Thomas wondered if he should be worried. But the man just pulled out an envelope. "This is for you," he said. He handed it to Thomas and turned to leave. "Wait," Thomas called. "What is this?" The man paused at the door. "An invitation. Someone wants to meet with you." Then he was gone, back into the black sedan, driving away before Thomas could ask anything else. Thomas looked at the envelope. Heavy paper, expensive. His name was written on the front in elegant script. He opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. It was typed on thick letterhead, the same company name from Marketa's business card. "Dear Mr. Novotny," the letter began. "I would like to invite you to meet with me at my office in the capital. I believe we have something important to discuss, something that could change your life. I understand this is unusual. I understand you may have questions. But I ask that you trust me, as I trusted you on that road 3 nights ago. A car will arrive at your home tomorrow morning at 9. The driver will bring you to me. All expenses will be covered. You need bring nothing but yourself and an open mind. I hope you will accept. Sincerely, Marketa Horakova." Thomas read the letter 3 times. Then he sat down on his work stool. Change his life? What did that mean? He was a mechanic, a simple man with a simple life. What could the chief executive officer of a major company possibly want with him? His first instinct was to decline. This was not his world. These were not his people. He should stay where he belonged, do what he knew. But something stopped him. His father's voice again. "When opportunity knocks," Joseph used to say, "you answer the door. Maybe it is nothing. Maybe it is everything. But you answer." That evening, Thomas closed the garage early. He went home and stood in his small house. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room with furniture older than he was. Everything clean but worn. Everything familiar. He thought about his life. The same routines, the same faces, the same work day after day. There was comfort in that. Safety. But was there growth? Was there possibility? He thought about his father. Joseph had spent 50 years in that garage. Never traveled more than 100 kilometers from Bystris. Never wanted to. But sometimes, late at night over a beer, he would talk about roads not taken, chances not seized. He never said he regretted his choices. But there was something in his voice, something wistful. Thomas did not want to be old someday, sitting with a beer, wondering what if. He made his decision. The next morning, he woke early, showered, put on his one good suit. It was old and a little tight. He wore it to funerals and weddings. It smelled like mothballs, but it was clean and pressed. He looked at himself in the mirror, a working man playing dress-up. He almost laughed. At 9 exactly, the black sedan arrived. The same car, the same driver. Thomas locked his door and climbed into the back seat. The interior smelled like leather and money. "Good morning, Mr. Novotny," the driver said. He was more friendly today. "We have about a 2-hour drive ahead of us. Please, make yourself comfortable." The drive was smooth and quiet. Thomas watched the countryside roll past. Fields gave way to towns. Towns gave way to suburbs. Suburbs gave way to the city. He had been to the capital before, but not often. It was too big, too loud, too fast. Everything was glass and steel and concrete. People rushed everywhere. No one made eye contact. No one smiled. It made him uneasy. The sedan pulled into an underground garage beneath a tall building, all chrome and marble. Security guards, cameras everywhere. The driver led him to an elevator. They went up, up, up. Thomas watched the numbers climb. 10, 20, 30, 40. The elevator opened into a reception area that looked like something from a magazine. Everything was white and pristine. A woman at a desk smiled at him. She spoke into a phone. A moment later, another woman appeared. "Mr. Novotny," she said. "Welcome. Please follow me." Everyone looked young. They walked down a long
Everyone
hallway.
looked busy.
Glass
Everyone
walls
looked
into
important.
offices where people worked. They reached a set of double doors at the end of the hall. The woman knocked once and opened them. "Thomas," Marketa said. She stood from behind an enormous desk. Her office was as big as his entire house. Windows along one wall looked out over the city. "Thank you for coming." He stepped inside. The doors closed behind him. Suddenly, it was just the two of them. She gestured to a chair. "Please, sit." He sat. The chair was more comfortable than his bed at home. She sat across from him. Not behind her desk, but in the chair next to his, like they were equals. "I imagine you have questions," she said. He nodded. "A few." She smiled. "Let me start by telling you why you are here. 3 nights ago, you stopped to help me. You asked nothing in return. You refused payment. In my world, that is rare. Very rare." She leaned forward slightly. "I have spent 20 years building this company. I have met thousands of people. Business leaders, politicians, investors, consultants. All of them want something. All of them have an angle. All of them are playing a game. But you just helped. Because someone needed help, that is all." Thomas shifted in his seat. "I do not understand. What does that have to do with why I am here?" "Everything," she said. "I am looking for someone to lead a new division of my company. Someone who understands integrity. Someone who understands people. Someone who is not corrupted by power or money. Someone real." She looked at him steadily. "I think that person might be you." Thomas stared at her. Then he laughed. Not unkindly. But he could not help it. The absurdity of it. "Ma'am," he said, "I am a mechanic. I fix cars. I have never worked in an office. I do not know anything about technology or business." She did not look offended. She just nodded. "I know. That is exactly why I want you." "Let me tell you a story," she said. "When I started this company, I had nothing, just an idea and determination. I worked 18-hour days. I slept in my office. I made 1,000 mistakes. But I learned. I grew. And I surrounded myself with people who had skills I did not have." She stood and walked to the window. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Success brought money. Money brought more success. And suddenly, everyone around me was the same. Same schools, same backgrounds, same way of thinking. We became disconnected from real people, from real problems, from reality. She turned back to him. 2 months ago, we launched a product. We spent millions developing it. Our experts said it would be revolutionary, but it failed. Completely. Do you know why? Thomas shook his head. Because we forgot who we were building it for. We built something that looked impressive, that sounded impressive, but it did not actually help anyone. It did not solve real problems. It was hollow. She sat back down. I need someone who understands real problems. Real people. Real life. I need someone who has not forgotten what matters. I need someone like you. Thomas felt dizzy. This was insane. He should say no. He should stand up and walk out. Go back to his garage. His safe, simple life. But he did not move. What would I even do? He asked quietly. She smiled. You would learn. You would listen. You would bring perspective. You would help us remember why we do what we do. You would lead a team focused on developing products that actually matter to ordinary people. Not just the wealthy. Not just the elite. Everyone. He rubbed his face. I do not have the education. I do not have the experience. You have something more valuable, she said. You have character. You have integrity. You have wisdom earned through real living. Those things cannot be taught. Everything else can be. There was silence. Thomas looked out the window, down at the city below. All those people, all those lives, all those problems he knew nothing about. I need time to think, he said. She nodded. Of course. Take the weekend. But I will tell you this. I did not build this company by playing it safe. I built it by taking risks, by believing in the unlikely, by seeing potential where others saw nothing. She stood, held out her hand. I see potential in you, Thomas Novotny. The question is, do you see it in yourself? He shook her hand, drove home in the black sedan, spent the weekend walking through fields, sitting by the creek, thinking. His whole life, he had been the man who stayed, who chose safety, who chose the known. His father had been that man, his grandfather before him. But what if he could be something different? What if he could be the man who said yes when opportunity knocked? What if he could be brave? On Monday morning, he called the number on the business card. When Marketa answered, he said 3 words. I will try. The first month was the hardest. Thomas moved into a small apartment in the capital. It was modern and clean, but felt cold, empty. Nothing like his house in Bystris. The walls were white. The furniture came with the rental. There were no memories here. No history. Just blank spaces waiting to be filled. He reported to the office on his first day wearing his old suit. Everyone else wore casual clothes, jeans and t-shirts, expensive sneakers. He looked like he was attending a funeral while they all looked like they were going to a coffee shop. No one said anything, but he felt their eyes, felt their questions. Who is this old man? Why is he here? Marketa introduced him at a company meeting. This is Thomas Novotny, she said. He will be leading our new Consumer Insight division. His job is to help us reconnect with the real world, to remind us who we are building for. Please give him your full support. There was polite applause, polite smiles, but he could see the doubt. These were brilliant young people with degrees from the best universities. They spoke languages he had never heard. They referenced concepts he did not understand. What could he possibly teach them? His office was smaller than Marketta's, but still overwhelming. A desk made of glass, a computer with 3 monitors, a phone system he did not know how to use, a coffee machine that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. He sat in his chair and stared at the screens. A young woman knocked on his open door. She was maybe 25. Bright eyes, confident smile. "Hi," she said. "I am Petra. I have been assigned as your assistant. Whatever you need, just ask." He nodded. "Thank you. Can you show me how to turn on the computer?" She did not laugh. She just smiled and showed him. Walked him through the basics. Email. Calendar. The company systems. She was patient, kind. It still felt like learning a foreign language. The days were long. Meetings started at 8 in the morning. Sometimes they went until 7 at night. People talked fast, used acronyms, threw around numbers that made his head spin. He sat quietly and listened, tried to absorb, tried to understand, but it was like drinking from a fire hose. One evening, after everyone else had gone home, he was still at his desk, trying to read through reports, trying to make sense of data and charts and projections. Marketta appeared in his doorway. "How are you doing?" she asked. He looked up. Tired, overwhelmed. She came in and sat down. "I know this is difficult. Thank you for being honest." He set down the papers. "I do not know if I can do this. I do not understand half of what people are saying. I do not know what I am supposed to contribute." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Let me tell you what I see. I see someone who listens when others talk. I see someone who asks simple questions that make people think. I see someone who is not afraid to say when he does not understand something. Do you know how rare that is? Everyone else pretends. They nod and smile and act like they know everything. But half the time they are just as confused as you are. They are just better at hiding it." That made him feel slightly better. She continued, "You do not need to be like them. You need to be you. That is the whole point. So stop trying to fit in. Stop trying to speak their language. Make them speak yours." He thought about that after she left. Make them speak his language. What did that mean? The next day, there was a meeting about a new product. 20 people sat around a conference table. Someone gave a presentation full of technical specifications, market penetration strategies, revenue projections. When it was done, the person asked, "Any questions?" Thomas raised his hand. Everyone looked at him. "What does it do?" he asked. The presenter blinked. "Excuse me?" "The product," Thomas said. "What does it actually do? For a real person, in real life?" There was an awkward silence. "Well," the presenter said, "it leverages artificial intelligence to optimize user engagement through predictive analytics." Thomas nodded slowly. "But what does that mean? If I am a farmer, or a teacher, or a grandmother, what does this thing do for me?" The presenter looked flustered. "It improves efficiency. It streamlines processes." "How?" Thomas asked. Another silence. Then someone else spoke up. An older man named Karl. He was one of the few people over 40 in the company. "He has a point," Karl said. "We keep talking about features and technology. But we have not actually explained what problem this solves. Who needs this and why?" The meeting shifted. People started talking differently, more simply, more clearly. By the end, they had identified 3 major flaws in the product design, things that would have made it useless to most people. After the meeting, Karel approached Thomas. "Good work in there," he said. "We need more of that." They became allies of sorts. Karel had been with the company from the early days. He remembered when it was just Markéta and 5 other people working out of a garage. He remembered when they cared more about helping people than impressing investors. "This place used to be different," he told Thomas over coffee one morning. "We used to build things because they mattered. Now we build things because they sound impressive." Thomas asked, "Why did it change?" Karel shrugged. "Success, money, growth. When you are small, you have to stay connected to your customers. You have to listen. But when you get big, you get insulated. Layers of management, layers of bureaucracy. You stop hearing the truth." "That is why Markéta brought you in," Thomas said. Karel nodded. "That is exactly why. She knows we lost our way. She is hoping you can help us find it again." "No pressure," Thomas said with a slight smile. Karel laughed. "None at all." Slowly, Thomas began to find his rhythm. He stopped trying to understand everything, stopped trying to speak their language. Instead, he asked questions. Simple questions, obvious questions, questions that made people stop and think. In product meetings, he would ask, "Who is this for?" In strategy sessions, he would ask, "Why does this matter?" In budget discussions, he would ask, "Is this the best use of our resources?" At first, some people found him annoying. This old man who did not understand how things worked. This outsider who kept slowing them down with basic questions. But gradually, others began to see the value. His questions cut through the noise, cut through the jargon and the complexity, forced people to focus on what actually mattered. Petra, his assistant, became invaluable. She translated for him, explained the things he did not understand, helped him navigate the corporate world. She also started bringing him problems, real problems from real users, complaints, confusion, frustration. "Look at this," she said one day, showing him an email. "This woman spent 40 minutes trying to set up one of our products. She gave up and returned it." Why was it so complicated? Thomas read the email. Then he said, "Can we get one of these products? I want to try setting it up myself." They brought him the product. He spent 2 hours trying to make it work, following the instructions, getting lost, getting frustrated, finally succeeding, but feeling exhausted. He called a meeting with the product team. "I want to show you something," he said. He had them watch as he tried to set up the product again. This time, he narrated every step, every moment of confusion, every time the instructions were unclear, every time he almost gave up. When he finished, the room was silent. One of the engineers, a brilliant young man named Martin, spoke quietly. "I designed that. I never thought about it from this perspective. I just assumed people would understand." Thomas nodded. "You are very smart. You understand technology. But most people are not like you. Most people just want something that works. Something simple. Something that does not make them feel stupid." Martin looked shaken. "We need to redesign this, completely." They did. It took 3 weeks. But the new version was simpler, clearer, better. When they released it, customer satisfaction scores went up 30%. Markéta called Thomas into her office. "You are making a difference," she said. People are starting to listen. He felt a warmth in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or purpose. Something he had not felt in a long time. But not everyone was happy. There was a man named Lucas who managed the product development division. He was in his mid-30s, ambitious, aggressive. He had been with the company for 8 years and clearly expected to keep climbing. He saw Thomas as a threat. In meetings, Lucas would challenge him. With all due respect, he would say, which usually meant no respect at all. We cannot just simplify everything. Our customers are sophisticated. They want advanced features. Thomas would respond calmly. Some customers want that, but not all. We should build for everyone, not just the few. Lucas would smile tightly. That is a nice sentiment. But this is business. We have to focus on our target demographic, our profitable demographic. One day, Lucas went to Marketa. He told her that Thomas was slowing down development, making everything complicated, causing delays and confusion. Marketa listened. Then she said, "He is doing exactly what I hired him to do. If that makes you uncomfortable, perhaps you should ask yourself why." Lucas left her office angry. Thomas did not know about this conversation. But Isai felt the tension, felt Lucas watching him, waiting for him to fail. It made him uneasy. He was not used to this kind of conflict. In Bystris, disagreements were simple, direct. You talked things through, shook hands, moved on. Here, everything was subtle, political. People smiled to your face and undermined you behind your back. He called home one evening, spoke to Peter from the bakery. "How are things there?" Thomas asked. "Same as always," Peter said. "Quiet. Boring. How is the big city?" "Complicated," Thomas said. "I miss home." "Then come home," Peter said simply. But Thomas knew he could not. Not yet. He had made a commitment. He had said he would try. And he was not ready to give up. 2 months into his new role, Thomas proposed something radical. He wanted to create what he called a reality lab, a place where the company could test their products with real people, not focus groups carefully selected by marketing teams, not tech enthusiasts who already understood everything. Just ordinary people. A grandmother, a construction worker, a student, a shop owner. People who represented the actual world. Marketa loved the idea. Lucas hated it. "This is a waste of resources," Lucas argued in a meeting. "We have established testing protocols. We have data. We have metrics. We do not need to reinvent the wheel." Thomas spoke carefully. "Data tells us what happened, but it does not always tell us why. These people can tell us why. They can show us what we are missing." The room was divided. Some supported Thomas, others sided with Lucas. In the end, Marketa made the decision. "We will try it," she said. 3 months. If it provides value, we continue. If not, we reconsider. They converted a large room on the 5th floor into the reality lab. Petra helped Thomas recruit participants. They put out advertisements in local papers, not online, in actual printed newspapers. They wanted people who were not already immersed in technology. The response surprised everyone. Hundreds of people applied. They wanted to be heard. They wanted to contribute. They wanted to help make products that actually worked for them. Thomas interviewed each candidate personally. He sat with them, asked about their lives, their struggles, their needs. He chose 15 people, different ages, different backgrounds, different levels of comfort with technology. There was Anna, a woman in her 60s who ran a small flower shop. There was David, a factory worker in his 40s with rough hands and a quiet demeanor. There was Sophia, a single mother of 3 who worked 2 jobs. There was Emile, a retired teacher who loved learning but found most modern devices frustrating. Each of them came in once a week. The company paid them fairly for their time. Thomas would give them products to test, not finished products, early prototypes, things still in development. He would watch them try to use these products. He would note every moment of confusion, every frustrated sing, every time they wanted to give up. Then he would ask them questions. What did you expect to happen here? Why did this confuse you? What would make this easier? The engineers and designers watched through one-way glass. At first, they were skeptical, defensive. That person is not our target user, they would say. They do not understand technology. That is the point, Thomas would reply. If someone who does not understand technology cannot use it, we have failed. But our products are for tech-savvy people, they would argue. Why? Thomas would ask. Why should they be? Why should we only build for people who already understand everything? Why not build for everyone? It was a shift in thinking, a fundamental change in philosophy. Some embraced it, others resisted. One day, they were testing a new home security system. It was supposed to be simple. Install it yourself. Control it from your phone. Keep your family safe. Anna, the flower shop owner, tried to set it up. She followed the instructions carefully, but within 10 minutes, she was lost. The app wanted her to create an account, enter a password with specific requirements, verify her email, connect to her Wi-Fi network. Each step created a new question, a new obstacle. After 30 minutes, she gave up. I am sorry, she said. I am just not smart enough for this. Thomas felt his heart clench. You are plenty smart. The product is not smart enough for you. He turned to the engineers watching. We need to fix this. One of them, a young woman named Hannah, spoke up. But all those steps are necessary. Security requires verification. Account creation is standard. Passwords protect user data. Thomas looked at her. Is it necessary, or is it just how we have always done it? What if we found a different way? Hannah frowned, thinking. What if the device came pre-configured? What if users could set it up without an account initially and add security features later if they wanted? What if we guided them through each step with simple language and pictures instead of technical terms? The room went quiet. Then another engineer spoke. We could do that. It would require rethinking our entire approach. But we could do that. They did. It took 6 weeks. But the new version was revolutionary. Anna tested it again. This time, she had it working in under 5 minutes. She smiled. Now this makes sense. Sales of that product increased by 60% in the first quarter after launch. Reviews praised its simplicity. Competitors scrambled to copy the approach. Lucas could not deny the results, but his resentment grew. Thomas was getting credit, getting attention, taking space that Lucas felt should be his. In meetings, Lucas became more aggressive, more dismissive. This is all well and good for consumer products, he would say. But our enterprise division cannot operate this way. Businesses want sophistication. They want power. They want control. Thomas would nod. They want those things. But do they want complexity? Do they want confusion? Do they want to spend hours training their employees on systems that should be intuitive? Lucas had no good answer for that. The tension came to a head during a presentation to potential investors. These were wealthy people who might put millions into the company. Everything had to be perfect. Markéta asked Thomas to speak about the Reality Lab, to show how the company was innovating. Thomas prepared carefully. He brought Anna and Emil with him. He wanted the investors to hear directly from real users. Lucas objected. We should present a polished, professional image, not parade ordinary people in front of investors. Markéta overruled him. This is our image now. This is who we are. The day of the presentation arrived. The conference room was full of people in expensive suits. Thomas wore his old suit, the same one from his first day. He no longer cared that it did not fit the culture. It fit him. That was enough. He gave his presentation. He explained the Reality Lab. He showed before and after videos of products being tested. He demonstrated the improvements they had made. Then he invited Anna to speak. She was nervous at first, but then she relaxed. She told her story, how she had always felt intimidated by technology, how she had avoided it because it made her feel stupid, how the new products made her feel capable, empowered. I am 64 years old, she said. I thought technology was not for people like me. But now I understand it can be, if the people making it care about people like me. The room was silent. Then one of the investors, an older man with white hair, started clapping. Others joined. By the end, everyone was applauding. After the meeting, investors lined up to talk to Markéta. They were impressed, excited. They saw something authentic, something real. One of them said, "This is what separates great companies from good ones. You have not forgotten why you exist." Lucas watched from the side of the room. His face was tight. Thomas saw him and felt a chill. This was not over. That evening, Markéta took Thomas out for dinner. A nice restaurant, the kind where the menus had no prices. She ordered wine, raised her glass. "To you," she said. "You are exceeding every expectation I had." He felt uncomfortable with the praise. "I am just doing what makes sense." She shook her head. "No. You are doing what most people cannot. You are staying true to yourself in a world that pressures everyone to conform. You are asking the questions no one else will ask. You are reminding us what matters." He sipped his wine. It tasted expensive. He preferred beer. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Why did you really hire me? It was not just about integrity or character. You could have found someone with those qualities who also had experience." She set down her glass. "You are right. There is more to it." She looked out the window. "When I started this company, I was like you, an outsider, someone who did not fit, someone who saw things differently. That was my strength. But success changed me, slowly, without me even noticing. I started caring about the wrong things, impressing the right people, making the right moves, growing the company at any cost. I lost myself." She looked back at him. "When I met you on that road, I saw who I used to be. Someone who just did the right thing without thinking about what they would get in return. I wanted that back. Not just for me. For the company." Thomas understood. "You wanted a mirror, to reflect what you had lost." She nodded. "And you have been that. But you have also been more. You have been a catalyst. You have changed how people think, how they work, how they see their purpose. He did not know what to say. They finished their dinner, talked about small things, the weather, the city, his life back in Bistris. As they left the restaurant, she said, "You know Lucas is planning something." Thomas nodded. "I figured. Be careful. He has allies. He has been here a long time. People are loyal to him. I will be careful." But she looked worried. Thomas went home to his apartment, sat in the silence, thought about everything that had changed. 3 months ago, he was fixing cars in a small town. Now he was influencing decisions at a major company. It felt surreal, impossible. But it was real, and it mattered. He thought about his father. What would Joseph think? Would he be proud? Or would he think Thomas had betrayed his roots, abandoned the simple life they had always valued? He decided his father would be proud, because Thomas had not changed who he was. He had just found a new place to be himself, a bigger stage, a wider impact, but still the same man, still asking the same questions, still caring about the same things. He fell asleep, feeling something he had not felt in years. Purpose. The next morning, everything changed. Thomas arrived at the office to find Petra waiting outside his door. Her face was pale. She looked like she had been crying. "What happened?" he asked. She handed him a tablet. An internal memo was displayed on the screen. It was from Lucas. The subject line read, "Concerns regarding resource allocation and leadership effectiveness." Thomas read it slowly. The memo was carefully worded. Professional. But the message was clear. Lucas was questioning whether the reality lab was worth the investment. He cited costs. He mentioned delayed product launches. He suggested that perhaps leadership decisions were being made based on sentiment rather than sound business strategy. He never mentioned Thomas by name, but everyone would know who he meant. "This went to the entire senior management team," Petra said quietly. Thomas felt something cold settle in his stomach. He had dealt with difficult people before. But this was different. This was calculated, strategic, an attack designed to undermine him while appearing reasonable. He forwarded the memo to Marketa. Then he went to find Karel. The older man was in his office, already reading the same memo. He looked up when Thomas entered. "I was wondering when Lucas would make his move." Thomas sat down. "What do I do?" Karel leaned back in his chair. "You defend your work, with facts, with results. Show the value you have created. Do not get emotional. Do not make it personal. Just present the truth." They spent the morning preparing. Karel helped him gather data, product performance metrics, customer satisfaction scores, revenue increases linked to Reality Lab recommendations, sales projections. The numbers told a clear story. Products that incorporated Reality Lab feedback performed significantly better than those that did not. Simpler products sold more, generated better reviews, created more loyal customers. By afternoon, Marketa called an emergency meeting of the senior management team. 12 people gathered in the conference room. Lucas sat at one end of the table, looking confident. Thomas sat at the other end, trying to appear calm. Marketa stood at the head of the table. "I received Lucas's memo this morning. I want to address his concerns directly and transparently. Lucas, please share your perspective." Lucas stood. He had a presentation prepared, slides full of charts and graphs. He spoke smoothly, professionally. The Reality Lab has been operational for 3 months. In that time, we have invested significant resources: personnel, space, time. Meanwhile, our product development cycle has slowed by an average of 2 weeks per launch. This delay has cost us market opportunities. Our competitors are moving faster. He clicked to the next slide. I am not suggesting that user feedback is unimportant, but we have established processes for gathering that feedback. Processes that are more efficient, more scalable, more aligned with industry standards. He looked around the room. We need to ask ourselves if this experiment has served its purpose, if perhaps we should return to proven methodologies. Several people nodded. Thomas could see that Lucas had been working on them. Building support, preparing for this moment. Markéta looked at Thomas. Would you like to respond? Thomas stood. He felt every eye on him. He had no polished presentation, no carefully designed slides, just a tablet with data and his own words. Lucas is right about some things. The Reality Lab costs money. It does add time to development. Those are facts. He paused. But let me share some other facts. He pulled up his data. Products that incorporated Reality Lab feedback have seen an average sales increase of 42%. Customer satisfaction scores have improved by 38%. Return rates have dropped by 51%. Most importantly, we are building customer loyalty. People are not just buying our products, they are trusting our brand, recommending us to others, coming back for more. He looked around the room. Yes, development takes longer, but we are building better products, products that succeed in the market, products that people actually want to use. Is that not worth 2 extra weeks? One of the other managers, a woman named Jana, spoke up. But how do we scale this? We cannot test every product with ordinary people. It is not sustainable. Thomas nodded. You are right. We cannot test everything. But we do not need to. We need to test enough to understand principles, to learn patterns, to develop guidelines that all our teams can follow. The Reality Lab is not just about testing products. It is about changing how we think. He turned to Lucas. You said we should return to proven methodologies. But those methodologies gave us products that failed, products that our customers did not understand, products that made people feel stupid. That is also proven. Another manager, an older man named Robert, leaned forward. I have been in this industry for 25 years. I have seen companies rise and fall. The ones that succeed are not always the fastest. They are the ones that understand their customers best. He looked at Lucas. Speed without direction is just motion. It gets you nowhere useful. The room was shifting. Thomas could feel it. But Lucas was not finished. He stood again. This is not just about metrics. It is about vision, about leadership. With respect, Thomas has no background in this industry, no formal training, no relevant experience. He is a mechanic who fixed Markéta's car. That does not qualify him to lead a division of this company. The room went silent. It was out in the open now. The real issue, not resources or processes, but Thomas himself, whether he belonged here, whether he had earned his place. Thomas felt anger rising, but Karol's words echoed. Do not get emotional. Do not make it personal. He took a breath. You are right, he said quietly. I am a mechanic. I have no degree in business or technology. I do not speak the language you all speak. I do not understand half the acronyms you use. But I understand people. I understand what it feels like to struggle with something that should be simple. I understand frustration and confusion and feeling like you are not smart enough. And I understand that most of our customers feel that way too. He looked directly at Lucas. You build products for people like yourself. Smart people, educated people, people who understand technology. But most people are not like you. They are like me. Ordinary, busy, just trying to get through their day. If we only build for the few, we will only sell to the few. Markéta spoke. When I hired Thomas, I knew he lacked traditional qualifications. That was intentional. I did not want someone who thought like everyone else. I wanted someone who thought like our customers. That is what he brings. Lucas pressed on. But at what cost? We are a business. We have competitors. We have shareholders. We cannot afford to be sentimental. Sentiment is not the same as empathy, Markéta said sharply. Understanding our customers is not a luxury. It is a necessity. And if you cannot see that, then perhaps you are not aligned with where this company is going. The room went very quiet. It was a direct challenge, a line drawn. Lucas sat down slowly. His face was red. The meeting ended shortly after. People filed out in silence. Thomas remained seated. Markéta came over to him. You did well. He shook his head. I made an enemy. You already had an enemy. Now he just knows you will not back down. Is that wise? He asked. It is necessary. She left. Thomas sat alone in the conference room, looked out at the city through the windows, thought about Bistris, thought about his simple life that now seemed very far away. Petra found him there an hour later. People are talking, she said. Some are on your side. Some are on Lucas's. The company is dividing. That is not what I wanted. I know. But it is what is happening. That evening, Thomas went for a walk. The city was loud and crowded. People rushed past him. No one made eye contact. He missed home. Missed the quiet. Missed knowing everyone he passed. He called Petter. His old friend answered on the third ring. Thomas, how are you? Tired. Petter laughed. City life wearing you down? Something like that. There was a pause. Then Petter said, You can always come back. Your garage is still there. I check on it every week. Thomas felt a pull, the temptation to quit, to return to what he knew, to escape this complicated world of politics and conflict. But then he thought about Anna, about her smile when she successfully set up that security system, about how she said it made her feel capable. He thought about all the people who would benefit from simpler products, better products, products that did not make them feel inadequate. I am not ready to give up yet, he said. Good, Petter replied, because the Thomas I know does not quit when things get hard. They talked for a while longer, about nothing important, about the weather and the bakery and the small dramas of small-town life. It grounded him, reminded him who he was. When he hung up, he felt stronger. The next day, he went back to work. Lucas avoided him, but the tension was there, in every meeting, every interaction, every decision. The company was watching to see what would happen next. Karel pulled him aside. Lucas is not going to stop. He feels threatened. People who feel threatened do dangerous things. What do you think he will do? I do not know. But be ready for anything. Thomas tried to focus on his work. The reality lab continued. More products were tested. More improvements were made. More successes piled up. But there was an unease now, a sense that something was building, that this conflict was far from over. One afternoon, Markéta called him to her office. She looked stressed, lines around her eyes that he had not noticed before. I need to tell you something, she said. The board of directors is getting involved. Lucas went to them, expressed his concerns. They are asking questions about the reality lab, about you, about whether this direction is right for the company. Thomas felt his stomach drop. What does that mean? It means we need to prove ourselves, decisively. The board wants results. Clear, measurable, undeniable results. We have results. We need more. We need something big. Something that shows beyond any doubt that this approach works. She looked at him intently. There is a major product launch coming in 4 months, our biggest of the year. If we can make that product succeed, if we can show that your methods work on a large scale, then no one can argue. But if it fails, we are done, Thomas finished. She nodded. We are done. The product was called Connect Home. It was designed to integrate all smart home devices into one simple system. Lights, security, temperature, entertainment. Everything controlled from a single interface. The technology was sophisticated. Years of development. Millions invested. It was supposed to be the company's flagship product for the year. Lucas's team had built it. He had overseen every aspect. It was his baby. His proof that traditional methods worked. And now Thomas was being asked to evaluate it, to potentially tear it apart and rebuild it. The irony was not lost on anyone. Markéta arranged a meeting with Lucas and Thomas. The three of them sat in her office. The tension was thick enough to cut. We need to work together on this, Markéta said. Both of you. The success of this product determines the future of this company, and possibly both of your futures here. Lucas looked at Thomas coldly. I have been working on Connect Home for 18 months. It is ready to launch. It does not need interference. Thomas spoke carefully. I am not here to interfere. I am here to make sure it succeeds, that it works for real people, not just in theory. Lucas leaned forward. Real people will love it. We have done extensive testing. Focus groups, beta users. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. What kind of people? Thomas asked. What do you mean? Who were these testers? What were their backgrounds? Lucas frowned. Tech enthusiasts, early adopters, people who understand smart home technology. Thomas nodded slowly. So people who already know what they are doing. People who already own smart home devices. People who speak the language. What about people who do not? What about someone buying their first smart home product? Someone who just wants their house to be easier to manage? Lucas's jaw tightened. Those people are not our primary market. They are not our market yet, Thomas said. But they could be. Should be. That is the whole point. Markéta intervened. Here is what is going to happen. Thomas, you will take Connect Home to the Reality Lab. You will test it with your participants. You will identify any issues. Then you and Lucas will work together to address those issues. We have 4 months until launch. Lucas stood abruptly. "This is a mistake. We do not have time to redesign everything based on the opinions of people who do not understand technology." Marchetta's voice went hard. "Sit down, Lucas." He sat, but his face was dark with anger. "You will make this work," she said. "Both of you, or neither of you will have a place here. Understand?" They both nodded. The meeting ended. Lucas left without looking at Thomas. Petra arranged for a Connect Home system to be delivered to the Reality Lab. It arrived in multiple boxes, professional packaging, sleek design. Instructions included. Thomas called in his participants. He started with Emile, the retired teacher. Emile was intelligent, patient, good with technology compared to some of the others. If he struggled, it would be telling. Thomas sat Emile down with the boxes. "Try to set this up," he said. "I will just watch. Do not worry about doing it right. Just do what feels natural." Emile opened the first box. Inside was the central hub, a smooth white device about the size of a book. He plugged it in. A light turned on. The instructions said to download an app. Emile took out his phone, found the app, downloaded it. The app opened. It asked him to create an account. He did. It asked for his email, a password, security questions. Emile filled everything out. Then it asked him to scan a code on the bottom of the hub. Emile turned the hub over, found the code, held his phone up to scan it. The phone camera could not focus. The code was small. Emile adjusted his glasses, tried again. Still could not get it to scan. He typed the code manually. 16 characters, letters and numbers. He made a mistake, had to start over. Finally got it entered. The app connected to the hub. Success. Now it wanted him to connect to his Wi-Fi network. Emile selected his network, entered the password, waited. Connection failed. He tried again. Failed again. The app suggested checking his router settings. Emile looked confused. My router settings? Thomas made a note. This was only the first device. Emile had not connected any lights or sensors yet. Already he was hitting obstacles. They continued. It took Emile 2 hours to get the basic system working. 2 hours of frustration and confusion and small failures. When it was finally running, Emile sat back, exhausted. I feel like I just took an exam, he said. Thomas tested it with Anna next, then with David, then with Sophia. Each of them struggled in different ways. Each of them hit different barriers. Some could not scan the code. Some could not connect to Wi-Fi. Some got lost in the app's menu system. Some could not figure out how to add new devices. By the end of the week, Thomas had pages of notes, specific problems, specific pain points, specific moments where ordinary people got stuck. He compiled everything into a report, sent it to Lucas, requested a meeting. Lucas read the report with visible irritation. These people are not representative of our customers. Thomas kept his voice calm. They are representative of potential customers, people who could buy this product if it was accessible to them. Lucas threw the report on his desk. We cannot redesign everything. We have deadlines. Manufacturing is already scheduled. Marketing campaigns are planned. What do you want me to do? I want you to prioritize the biggest issues, the ones that stop people completely, the ones that make them give up. He pulled out his notes. The QR code scanning is a major problem. Half the people could not get it to work. Can we eliminate that step? Allow people to connect the hub without scanning? Lucas thought. We could add a simpler pairing method. A button on the hub that puts it in pairing mode. The app could find it automatically. That would work. What else? The Wi-Fi connection. When it fails, people do not know what to do. The error messages are technical. Can we make them clearer? Give people actual steps to fix the problem? We can do that. They went through the list, item by item. Some things Lucas could fix easily. Some required more work. Some he flat out refused. That compromises security, he would say. Or that impacts performance. Or that is not industry standard. Thomas learned to pick his battles, to focus on the changes that mattered most, to let go of the things that were not critical. It was exhausting. Every conversation was a negotiation. Every change was a fight. But slowly, Connect Home improved. They tested the updates with the Reality Lab participants, measured the improvements, reduced setup time from 2 hours to 40 minutes, then to 30, then to 20. Increased successful first-time setup from 40% to 75%, then to 85%. The changes were working. But Lucas gave Thomas no credit. In meetings, he presented the improvements as his own decisions, his refinements, his brilliance. Thomas did not correct him, did not fight for recognition. He just wanted the product to succeed. Carl noticed. You should speak up. You are doing the work. You deserve the credit. Thomas shrugged. The product matters more than credit. Carl shook his head. You are too humble. In this world, that is a weakness people will exploit. Maybe. But it is who I am. I am not going to change that. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking. 4 months became 3. 3 became 2. The launch date approached. Marketing ramped up. Advertisements were prepared. Pre-orders opened. The company was betting everything on Connect Home. And on Thomas's approach working. The pressure was immense. Thomas started having trouble sleeping. He would lie awake thinking about everything that could go wrong. Every potential failure. Every way this could blow up in his face. He called home more often. Talked to Peter. To his old customers. To anyone who reminded him of who he was. One night, Marketa found him in the office at 10 in the evening. He was running through test scenarios again, making sure they had caught everything. You need to rest, she said. I need to make sure this works. She sat down across from him. It will work. You have done everything you can. What if it is not enough? Then it is not enough. But you cannot control everything. You can only do your best. He looked at her. Are you worried? Terrified, she admitted. This company is my life, everything I built. If this fails, I lose it all. He had not thought about it from her perspective, the risk she was taking. Not just on the product, but on him. Why did you risk so much on me? She smiled sadly. Because I was already losing it. Slowly, I could feel the company slipping away from what it was meant to be. You were my chance to pull it back. Maybe my last chance. That made the pressure worse. He was not just responsible for himself. He was responsible for her, for the company, for everyone who worked there. I do not know if I am strong enough for this. None of us know if we are strong enough until we are tested. That is what growth is. Being forced to become more than you thought you could be. He thought about his father, about the garage in Bystris, about the simple life he had left behind. that life seemed very attractive right now, very safe. But he had come too far to go back. 2 weeks before launch, they did a final round of testing, brought in 50 new participants, people who had never seen Connect Home before, gave them the product, watched them set it up. 89% succeeded on the first try. Average setup time was 18 minutes. Customer satisfaction surveys showed strong, positive responses. The data was good, better than good. But Thomas still felt uneasy. He could not shake the feeling that they were missing something important. He went through everything again, every step, every instruction, every potential problem. And then he saw it, a scenario they had not tested. What happened when the Wi-Fi went down after initial setup, when the hub lost connection and needed to reconnect? He tested it. The hub failed to reconnect automatically. Users had to go through the entire setup process again. For people who barely managed it the first time, doing it again would be impossible. They would give up, return the product, write angry reviews. He brought it to Lucas immediately. "We have a critical problem." Lucas looked at the issue, went pale. "We cannot fix this in 2 weeks. The firmware would need a complete rewrite." "Then we delay the launch. We cannot. Manufacturing has started. Pre-orders are sold. Marketing is running. We are committed. Then we launch with a flaw." "And hope no one notices?" Thomas asked. Lucas had no answer. They went to Marketa together, explained the problem. She listened, asked questions, thought. "Then we fix it with an update," she said. "We launch as planned, but we have an update ready within 2 weeks of launch. We monitor social media, customer service. The moment people start having issues, we push the update." "It is not perfect," Thomas said. "But it is reality. We do our best. We fix problems as they arise. That is how this works." Lucas looked relieved. Thomas still felt uneasy, but there was no other choice. Launch day arrived. The entire company gathered in the main conference room. A giant screen showed real-time sales data. Pre-orders had been strong. Now, they were watching to see if momentum would continue. The numbers climbed. 1,000 units in the first hour. 5,000 by noon. 10,000 by end of day. Marketa stood at the front of the room, smiling, relieved. "This is just the beginning," she said. "You have all worked incredibly hard. You should be proud." People applauded, celebrated. Thomas stood at the back of the room. He could not shake his unease. The Wi-Fi reconnection problem haunted him. But maybe it would be fine. Maybe most people would never encounter it. The engineering team was already working on the update. It would be ready soon. Everything would be fine. That night, he went home and tried to relax. Could not. Kept checking his phone, checking reviews, checking social media. The early feedback was positive. People loved the design, loved the features, found setup easier than expected. "See?" he told himself. "It is working." By the third day, sales had reached 50,000 units. The company's stock price jumped. Industry publications wrote glowing reviews. Connect Home was being called a game changer. Lucas was everywhere, giving interviews, taking credit, describing his vision for the product, how his team had worked tirelessly, how his leadership had guided development. He mentioned the Reality Lab once, briefly, as a minor part of the process. Thomas did not care. The product was succeeding. That was what mattered. On the 5th day, the first complaints appeared. Just a few. People saying their hub disconnected and would not reconnect. Customer service walked them through solutions, manual resets, reinstallation. It was annoying but manageable. By the 7th day, the complaints multiplied. Dozens, then hundreds. A pattern emerged. Routers from a specific manufacturer had compatibility issues. When they reset or lost power, the hub could not reconnect. This affected about 20% of customers. 20% of 50,000 was 10,000 people. 10,000 angry customers. Social media exploded. Reviews turned negative. People felt betrayed, deceived. They said the product was broken, that the company had knowingly sold defective devices. The update was not ready. The engineering team needed 3 more days, maybe 4. The company tried to control the damage, issued statements, offered refunds, promised fixes. But the narrative had turned. Tech blogs wrote articles. Connect Home disaster. Another overhyped product that fails to deliver. Some even speculated the company had rushed to market, had ignored warning signs, had prioritized profit over quality. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. Thomas was summoned. So was Lucas. So was Marketa. They sat in a room with 8 board members, older men and women in expensive suits, people who controlled the company's future. The chairman, a stern man named Victor, spoke first. "We need to understand what happened. How did a product this important launch with such a critical flaw?" Marketa explained. "We knew about the issue. We had a plan to address it with a rapid update. We made a calculated decision to launch on schedule rather than delay." "Why was the update not ready at launch?" Victor asked. "Because we only discovered the issue 2 weeks before launch," Marketa said. "We prioritized shipping the product over having a perfect solution." A woman named Helena leaned forward. "Who approved that decision?" "I did," Marketa said. "Based on the recommendation of my leadership team." Victor looked at Lucas. "You led the product development. How did you miss this?" Lucas straightened. "We tested extensively. The issue only manifests with certain router configurations. It was not detectable in our testing environment." "But it should have been," another board member said. "That is basic compatibility testing." Lucas's face flushed. "With respect, we had limited time. We had pressure to launch on schedule, pressure to hit targets. We did the best we could with the resources available." Victor turned to Thomas. "You ran additional testing through this reality lab. Did you catch this issue?" "Yes," Thomas said quietly. "I caught it. 2 weeks before launch." The room went silent. Victor's eyes narrowed. "You caught it. You reported it. And the decision was made to launch anyway?" "Yes." "Did you object?" I expressed concern, but I also understood the constraints, the commitments, the costs of delay. Helena spoke. "But you were brought in specifically to prevent problems like this, to ensure products worked for real people. And you did identify the problem, but then it was ignored." "Not ignored," Marketa said. "Managed. We planned to fix it quickly." "Planned is not the same as did," Victor said coldly. There was a long silence. Then Victor said, "We need to discuss this privately. The 3 of you can wait outside." They left the room, sat in uncomfortable chairs in the hallway, did not speak to each other. 30 minutes passed. An hour. Finally, the doors opened. They were called back in. Victor looked at them grimly. "This situation is unacceptable. Our reputation has been damaged. Our stock has dropped 12%. Customer trust has been compromised. Changes need to be made." He looked at Lucas. Your role as head of product development is under review. We question your judgment and your leadership. You will be placed on leave pending further investigation. Lucas went white. You cannot. We can. And we are. Security will escort you from the building. Lucas looked at Markéta, pleading. She looked away. 2 security guards appeared. Lucas left. Defeated. Humiliated. Then Victor turned to Thomas. You identified the problem. That is commendable. But you did not fight hard enough to stop the launch. You deferred to others instead of standing firm. That shows a lack of conviction. Thomas nodded slowly. You are right. Victor continued. However, your reality lab did prove its value. It caught what traditional testing missed. That cannot be ignored. He paused. Effective immediately, you will assume. Lucas's position as head of product development. You will oversee all product lines. You will ensure that quality and user experience are never compromised. Thomas stared. I cannot do that. I do not have the qualifications. The experience. You will learn, just as you have been learning. Markéta will support you. The team will support you. But this is not optional. We need leadership that prioritizes customers over deadlines. That is you. But there are no buts. Accept the position or resign, both of you. He looked at Markéta. This reflects on your judgment as well. You brought him in. You made the call to launch. You bear responsibility. One more failure, and you will both be removed. Understood? They both nodded. The meeting ended. Thomas walked out in a daze. Head of product development. Him, a mechanic from Bystris, leading technical teams, making strategic decisions. It was insane. Markéta caught up with him in the hallway. Are you all right? No. I am not qualified for this. Neither was I when I started this company. But I figured it out. So will you. What if I fail? Then we fail together. They went back to the office. Word had already spread. Lucas was gone. Thomas was in charge. People stared, whispered. Some looked hopeful. Others looked skeptical. Most looked confused. Petra found him in his office, or rather, his new office. Lucas's old office, the one with windows and space and a view. I do not know what to say. Say you will help me, Thomas replied. Because I have no idea what I am doing. She smiled. I will help you. Karel appeared in the doorway. Congratulations, or condolences. I have not decided which is more appropriate. Thomas laughed despite everything. Condolences, probably. Karel came in and sat down. You know this is going to be hard. Everyone will be watching, waiting to see if you fail. I know. Some people wanted Lucas gone, but others were loyal to him. They will resist you. I know that, too. Karel studied him. Why did you say yes? Because I said I would try. Back when Markéta first offered me this opportunity, I said I would try. I cannot go back on that now, even if it terrifies you, especially because it terrifies me. That night, Thomas sat alone in the big office, looked out at the city lights, thought about how far he had come from that road where he helped a stranger. 6 months ago, he was fixing cars, living simply, wanting nothing more than honest work and a quiet life. Now he was responsible for hundreds of employees, millions in revenue. products that would be used by thousands of people. It was too much, too big, too overwhelming. He thought about quitting, going home, telling Marketa and the board that they had made a mistake, that he could not do this. His phone rang. It was Peter. "I heard the news," Peter said. "Some reporter called asking about you, about your background. What did you tell them?" "The truth, that you are the most decent man I know. That if anyone can do this, you can." Thomas felt tears in his eyes. "I do not know if I believe that. Then believe that I believe it." They talked until late, about nothing and everything, about Bystris and the bakery and the garage sitting empty, about how strange life was, how it took you places you never imagined. When Thomas hung up, he felt steadier. He looked at the framed photo on the desk. The previous occupant had left it behind. It showed Lucas shaking hands with some dignitary, looking proud and confident. Thomas took it down, put it in a drawer. Tomorrow he would bring in his own photo, one of his father in front of the garage, a reminder of where he came from, a reminder that he was still that person, just in a different place, doing different work, but still himself. He turned off the lights, locked the office, went home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, new chances to fail or succeed. But tonight, he just needed to rest, to gather his strength, to prepare for what came next, because everything had changed, and there was no going back. The first day as head of product development was brutal. Thomas arrived early, before sunrise. The office was empty and quiet. He sat at his new desk and stared at his computer. 3 monitors full of emails, messages, requests, problems. He did not know where to start, so he started with coffee, made it himself in the break room, strong and black. While it brewed, Petra arrived. She looked as tired as he felt. "I made a list," she said, handing him a tablet. "These are your immediate priorities." He looked at the list. It had 47 items. "This is immediate? These are just the things that cannot wait. There are another 100 items that can wait a day or two." He sighed. "Where do we start? The Connect Home fix. That has to be priority 1. The update was ready. Engineering had worked around the clock. It addressed the router compatibility issue, added better error messages, improved automatic reconnection. They needed to push it to all devices, immediately. Thomas called a meeting with the engineering team. 15 people gathered in a conference room. They looked at him warily. He was the outsider who had taken their leader's job. "I know this transition is difficult," Thomas began. "I know many of you respected Lucas. I know you have questions about my qualifications. So let me be clear. I do not pretend to know what you know. I will never understand technology the way you do. But I understand people. And right now, 10,000 people are angry because our product failed them. We need to fix that." One of the engineers, a young man named Philip, spoke up. "The update is ready. We can push it today." "Do it," Thomas said. "Then I want a full analysis." What went wrong? Why did we miss this? How do we prevent it from happening again? "We did not miss it," another engineer said defensively. "We found it. We just did not have time to fix it before launch. That was a leadership decision, not an engineering failure." Thomas nodded. "You are right, and that leadership failure is on me. I should have fought harder to delay the launch. I did not. That is something I have to live with." The room was quiet. They had not expected that. Expected him to blame Lucas, to deflect responsibility. "But I am here now," Thomas continued, "and I promise you this. We will not make that mistake again. We will not launch products that are not ready. We will not compromise quality for deadlines. And we will listen to you when you tell us something is not right. Is that understood?" They nodded. Some looked skeptical. Others looked hopeful. They pushed the update that afternoon. Monitoring systems tracked its deployment. Within hours, most devices had updated. Customer service reports started changing. Fewer complaints, more successful reconnections. It was working, but the damage to the company's reputation was done. Sales had dropped. Reviews remained negative. Trust needed to be rebuilt. That would take time, and they did not have much time. The board had made that clear. Thomas called a meeting with all department heads: product development, marketing, sales, customer service, engineering, design. 20 people around a table. Some he knew. Most he did not. "We need to talk about how we move forward," Thomas said. Connect Home damaged our reputation. We need to repair that. But more importantly, we need to make sure it never happens again. A woman from marketing named Ivana spoke. "We need a new product, something to shift the narrative, show that we have learned, rebuilt trust." Thomas shook his head. "We do not need a new product. We need better products. All of them. Every single thing we make needs to work flawlessly for real people. Not just tech enthusiasts. Everyone." A man from sales named Andre frowned. "That sounds good. But what does it actually mean?" "It means we expand the reality lab," Thomas said. "We test everything, every product, every update, every new feature, before it reaches customers." Karl, sitting beside Thomas, added, "It means we slow down, build better instead of building faster." Andrzej shook his head. "Our competitors are not slowing down. If we fall behind, we lose market share. We lose revenue. Would you rather have market share or trust?" Thomas asked. "Because right now, we are losing both." The room erupted in discussion. Arguments, debates. Some agreed with Thomas. Others thought he was naive, unrealistic, out of touch with how business worked. Thomas let them talk, listened, learned, understood their concerns. Finally, he raised his hand. Silence fell. "Here is what we are going to do. Every product currently in development goes through reality lab testing. No exceptions. If it fails, we fix it. If we cannot fix it, we do not launch it. Marketing, you focus on rebuilding trust, transparency, honesty. Show customers that we made mistakes, but we are correcting them. Sales, you manage expectations. No overpromising, no hype. Just honest descriptions of what our products do. Customer service, you are our front line. You hear, problems first. You report directly to me. Every day. Any major issues come to me immediately." He looked around the table. "I know this is different. I know it is harder. But if we do not change, we will not survive. This is not just about one product. This is about who we are as a company." The meeting ended. People left. Some energized, some angry, some uncertain. Change was never easy. Over the next 2 weeks, Thomas worked 18-hour days, learning systems, understanding processes, meeting with teams. He expanded the reality lab, hired more participants, diversified the testing group, elderly people, young parents, people with disabilities, people who struggled with technology. He brought in every product currently in development, 7 different products at various stages. Watched real people try to use them, documented every problem. Some products passed with minor adjustments. Others needed significant work. One product, a smartwatch designed for fitness tracking, failed completely. Too complicated, too many features, too overwhelming. The design team was devastated. We spent 8 months on this. "This is not criticism of your work," Thomas said gently. "You built something technically impressive, but it is not right for our customers. Not yet." "What do we do?" one designer asked quietly. "We simplify, strip away everything that is not essential, focus on doing a few things perfectly instead of many things adequately." They went back to the drawing board. It was painful, frustrating, but necessary. Meanwhile, Thomas faced resistance from multiple directions. Some employees thought he was destroying what Lucas had built. Others thought he was moving too slowly, being too cautious. Anonymous complaints reached the board, concerns about his leadership, his methods, his qualifications. Victor, the board chairman, called him. "We are hearing concerns. People are worried about the direction you are taking." "What are they worried about specifically?" Thomas asked. "That you are prioritizing perfection over progress, that we will fall behind competitors, that we will miss market opportunities." Thomas took a breath. "Would you rather we launch more broken products? Would you rather face more public failures?" There was a pause. Then Victor said, "We hired you to fix things, but fixing cannot mean paralysis. You need to find balance. I am trying. Try faster. The board is not patient." The call ended. Thomas sat in his office feeling the weight of it all. He called Marketa, asked to meet. They went to a quiet cafe near the office. She ordered tea. He ordered coffee. "You look exhausted," she said. "I am. But that is not why I wanted to meet." "Why then?" "I need to know something." "Do you still believe in this, in what we are trying to do?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Yes. Even with the board threatening to remove us both? Even with half the company resisting change?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because the alternative is worse. If we go back to how things were, we will have more failures, more disasters. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. And each one will be worse than the last." She sipped her tea. "What you are doing is right. It is just hard. And people do not like hard." Thomas nodded. "I keep thinking about my father, about the garage, about the simple life I left behind." "Do you regret leaving?" "Some days. But then I think about Anna, about how proud she was when she got that security system working, about how we made her feel capable instead of stupid. And I think about all the other people out there who feel that way, who avoid technology because it makes them feel inadequate. If we can change that, if we can build things that work for them, that matters. That matters more than comfort or safety or an easy life." Marketa smiled. "That is why I chose you. That is why I knew you were right for this, even when you did not believe it yourself." They finished their drinks, walked back to the office together. ready to face whatever came next. That evening, Thomas called another meeting, this time with just the senior leadership team. 8 people, the core decision-makers. He laid out his plan, a complete restructuring of product development, new protocols, new standards, new ways of working. It was comprehensive, thorough, and it would require everyone to change how they operated. "This is a lot," one manager said. "I know. When does this start?" "Now. Tonight. We begin immediately." "But what about current projects, current timelines?" "We adjust them, push them back if necessary. But we do it right." There were murmurs, concerns, doubts, but no one openly objected. They understood the stakes, understood that failure was not an option. The company had one chance to get this right. Over the following week, the changes rolled out. Every team received new guidelines, new processes, new expectations. Some adapted quickly, others struggled. But slowly, the culture began to shift. People started asking different questions in meetings. Not just, "Can we build this?" but "Should we build this?" Not just, "When can we launch?" but "Is it ready to launch?" The Reality Lab became central to everything, no longer a side experiment, but the heart of product development. Thomas personally reviewed every test, every piece of feedback, every suggested improvement. He was exhausted, running on coffee and determination, barely sleeping, barely eating. Petra kept him organized. Karel kept him grounded. Markéta kept him protected from the board. But the pressure was immense, constant, overwhelming. One night, he stayed in the office until past midnight, going through reports, making decisions, planning the next steps. He heard footsteps, looked up. One of the engineers stood in his doorway. The young man named Philip. "Can I talk to you?" Thomas gestured to a chair. "Of course." Philip sat, looked uncomfortable. "I wanted to say something. I did not like you when you first arrived. Thought you were just some old guy who got lucky, who did not deserve to be here." Thomas nodded. "I understand that. But I have been watching what you are doing, how you are changing things, and I realize something. You are right. We were building products for ourselves, for people like us, not for everyone, and that was wrong." Thomas felt emotion rise in his chest. "Thank you for saying that," Philip continued. "A lot of us feel that way. We just did not want to admit it. But we see it now. And we want to help. We want to build better." That meant more than any praise from the board, more than any article in the press. That was validation from the people doing the actual work. They talked for another hour, about technology, about purpose, about what they were trying to achieve. When Philip left, Thomas felt renewed, energized despite his exhaustion. They were making progress, real progress. The next morning, he presented a progress report to Markéta, showed her the changes, the improvements, the cultural shift happening within the teams. She looked impressed. "This is good, really good. The board meets in 2 weeks. You need to present this to them. Show them what you have accomplished, what you are building toward." He felt nervous. The board intimidated him. These were powerful people, wealthy people, people who spoke a language he still did not fully understand. "You will be fine," Markéta said. "Just be yourself. Tell the truth. Show them the data. They respect results. He spent the next 2 weeks preparing, gathering data, creating presentations, practicing what he would say. The day before the board meeting, he went for a walk, needed to clear his head, found himself in a park, sat on a bench, watched people pass by. An elderly woman struggled with her phone, trying to make a call, getting frustrated. Thomas stood, walked over. "Excuse me. Do you need help?" She looked up, relieved. "Oh, yes. I cannot figure out how to call my daughter." He took the phone gently, showed her, explained each step clearly, patiently. "There you go." She smiled, grateful. "Thank you. These things are so complicated." "They do not have to be," he said. "That is what I am trying to fix." She looked confused. He just smiled, made his way back to the office. Tomorrow he would face the board. Tomorrow he would present everything he had built, everything he believed in. Tomorrow would determine if he succeeded or failed. But tonight, he was just a man who helped someone make a phone call. And that was enough. The boardroom was on the top floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A massive table made of dark wood, leather chairs, everything designed to intimidate. Thomas arrived 30 minutes early, wore his best suit, the one Petra had helped him buy. Dark blue, well-fitted, professional. But he still felt like an imposter. The board members arrived one by one. Victor, Helena, 6 others whose names he had memorized. They greeted Markéta warmly, greeted him with polite nods, measured looks. They took their seats. Victor at the head of the table. Markéta and Thomas on one side. The others arranged around them. Victor called the meeting to order. "We are here to review the progress since the Connect Home situation, to assess the changes being implemented, to determine if current leadership is moving the company in the right direction." He looked at Thomas. "Mr. Novotny, you have the floor." Thomas stood. His hands were shaking slightly. He gripped the edge of the table, steadied himself. "Thank you for this opportunity. I know my appointment was controversial. I know many questioned whether a mechanic belonged in this role. Some still do." He clicked to his first slide. "When I arrived 6 months ago, this company had a problem. Not a technical problem, a human problem. We had lost touch with the people we served. We built products that impressed investors but confused customers. Products that looked sophisticated but felt complicated. Products that worked in theory but failed in practice." Next slide. Connect. Home was the result of that disconnect. A product designed by brilliant people for brilliant people. But most people are not brilliant. Most people are just trying to get through their day. They do not want to learn complex systems. They want things that work, simply, intuitively, without making them feel inadequate. Helena interrupted. "We have heard this philosophy. What we want to know is results. What has actually changed?" Thomas nodded. "Fair question." He brought up a new slide. Data. Numbers. Metrics. In the past 6 weeks, we have tested 7 products through the Reality Lab. 3 passed with minor modifications. 2 required significant redesign. 2 were cancelled. One board member, an older man named Jiri, frowned. "Cancelled?" "We invested resources in those products." "Yes. And cancelling them saved us from 2 more Connect Home situations, 2 more public failures, 2 more hits to our reputation. Another slide. The 3 products that passed are now in final production. Early customer feedback is overwhelmingly positive. Setup times are down. Satisfaction scores are up. Return rates are minimal. The two products that required redesign are back in development. We expect them to be ready in 3 months. Better products. Products that will succeed. Victor leaned forward. You mentioned cancelled products. That represents lost investment. Lost opportunity. How do you justify that? Thomas met his eyes. A failed product costs more than a cancelled one. Connect Home cost us sales, reputation, customer trust, stock value. Those cancelled products would have cost us the same. Maybe more. Is it not better to recognize a mistake early and cut our losses? There was silence. Then Helena spoke. What about timeline? We are falling behind our competitors. They are launching products while we are testing and redesigning. Thomas changed slides. This showed competitor products, their sales figures, their review scores, their return rates. Our competitors are launching faster, but they are failing faster too. Look at these numbers. High return rates, poor reviews, customer complaints. They are making the same mistakes we made, and they are paying the price. Another slide. We are not falling behind. We are being strategic, building products that last, that build loyalty, that create long-term value instead of short-term sales. He could see some board members nodding. Others remained skeptical. One woman, named Elena, spoke up. This all sounds good in theory, but business requires risk. Innovation requires speed. If we slow down too much, we become irrelevant. Thomas paused, chose his words carefully. You are right. Speed matters. Innovation matters. But so does quality. So does trust. The question is not whether we move fast. The question is what we are moving toward. Are we moving toward more sales or more satisfied customers? More products launched or more products that succeed? More market share or more market respect? The room was quiet. He continued. I believe we can have both. Speed and quality, innovation and reliability, but only if we are willing to do the hard work, to test thoroughly, to listen honestly, to admit when something is not ready. Victor studied him. You speak with conviction, but conviction does not always translate to results. The board needs to see clear evidence that your approach works, not just philosophy. Not just early indicators. Proof. Thomas nodded. I understand. That is why I want to propose something. There was tension in the room. Everyone leaned forward slightly. We have a product in final testing, a new tablet designed for elderly users. Simple interface, large buttons, clear instructions, built specifically for people who find technology intimidating. He brought up images, video of elderly participants using the tablet, their faces lit with understanding, with accomplishment, with joy. This is what happens when we build for real people, when we design with empathy instead of ego. This tablet will launch in 6 weeks. I believe it will be our most successful product in years. And if I am wrong, Victor asked, if it fails, then I resign, immediately. No arguments, no excuses. I will step down, and you can find someone else. The room erupted, board members talking over each other. Markéta looked at him with wide eyes. She had not known he would say that. Victor raised his hand. Silence fell. You are willing to stake your position on one product? Yes. Why? Because I believe in it. Because I believe in what we are building. And because belief without risk is just words. Victor sat back, studied him for a long moment. Then he looked at the other board members. We need to discuss this privately. Thomas and Marketa left the room, stood in the hallway. Marketa turned to him. What were you thinking? Making that offer without discussing it with me? I was thinking that we need to show confidence, that half measures will not convince them. She shook her head. If that product fails, you are done. We are both done. I know. He looked out the Trantwold window, down at the city far below. But it will not fail. I have tested it myself. With Anna, with Emil, with dozens of people. It works. It really works. Marketa sighed. I hope you are right. They waited. 20 minutes. 30. Finally, the door opened. They were called back in. Victor spoke. The board has discussed your proposal. We find it bold, perhaps reckless, but also indicative of genuine confidence. We have decided to accept. The tablet launches in 6 weeks. If it succeeds, your position is secure. You will have full support to continue implementing your vision. If it fails, you resign. Both of you. Marketa started to object. Victor held up his hand. You brought him in. You backed his methods. You share responsibility. That is how leadership works. She closed her mouth, nodded. Thomas felt the weight of it, not just his career, but hers. Everything she had built, all resting on one product, one launch, one chance to prove himself. We understand, he said. Good. Victor stood. The meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene after the launch. They left, walked to the elevator in silence. Got in. As the doors closed, Marketa spoke. I should be angry with you. Are you? She smiled slightly. No, I am terrified, but not angry. You did what needed to be done. They rode down in silence, stepped out into the lobby. She turned to him. 6 weeks. We need to make sure everything is perfect. It will be. It has to be. She walked away. Thomas stood alone in the lobby. People rushed past him. No one paying attention. No one knowing that his entire future had just been decided. He called Petra, told her what happened. She was silent for a moment. Then she said, We need to accelerate final testing, get more participants, cover every possible scenario. I agree. Call everyone in. Tell them it is urgent. That evening, he gathered the entire product team, explained the situation, explained what was at stake. Some looked excited, others looked afraid, but all of them understood. This was it. This was their moment. We have 6 weeks, Thomas said. 6 weeks to make sure this product is flawless. 6 weeks to prove that our approach works. 6 weeks to save this company. Who is with me? Every hand went up. They worked, day and night, testing, refining, improving. Every detail scrutinized, every feature examined, every interaction optimized. Thomas brought in more Reality Lab participants, elderly people from all backgrounds, different levels of education, different levels of comfort with technology. Some had never used a tablet. Some had tried and given up. Some wanted to learn but felt intimidated. He watched each one, took notes, asked questions. Where do you get confused? What do you wish was different? What would make this easier? They told him, honestly, sometimes bluntly. And he listened, made changes, tested again. The tablet evolved, got simpler, clearer, better. 1 week before launch, Anna came in for a final test. She had been part of the project from the Yulkur beginning, had tested every version. Thomas handed her the final production model, fresh out of the box. "Try it," he said. She opened it, turned it on. The screen lit up with a simple greeting. "Welcome. Let us get started together." Step-by-step instructions appeared, clear, visual, easy to follow. Anna worked through them, setting up Wi-Fi, creating an account, customizing her home screen. She did it all without help, without frustration, without confusion. When she finished, she looked up at Thomas, tears in her eyes. "I did it, all by myself, I know. I am so proud." She shook her head. "You do not understand. I have never done anything like this. My whole life I avoided technology. Felt like it was not for me, like I was too old, too stupid. But this..." She held up the tablet. "This makes me feel smart. That is what I wanted. For you, for everyone like you." She hugged him. "Thank you for believing that people like me matter. You have always mattered. Now the world will see it." Launch day approached. Marketing prepared campaigns, sales prepared inventory, customer service prepared for questions. Everything was ready. Thomas barely slept, checking details, running scenarios, preparing for everything that could go wrong. The night before launch, Marketa called him. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified." "Good. That means you care. If you were not scared, I would be worried." He smiled. "That is oddly comforting." "Thomas, whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something." "What?" "You changed this company. You changed me. You reminded us why we do this, why any of this matters. That has value, regardless of what happens. Thank you. Get some rest. Tomorrow changes everything." Launch day arrived. Thomas was at the office before dawn. The building was dark and empty. He made coffee, sat at his desk, watched the city wake up through his window. At 8 in the morning, the tablet went live on the company website, in stores, through retail partners. The team gathered in the conference room, watching sales data in real time. The first hour passed slowly. A few hundred units sold. Not bad, not great. By the second hour, sales picked up. Word was spreading. People were curious. By noon, they had sold 5,000 units. The marketing team looked pleased but cautious. By mid-afternoon, something unexpected happened. Social media exploded. But not with complaints, with praise. People were posting videos, elderly parents using the tablet successfully, grandparents video calling their families, older adults discovering the internet for the first time. One video went viral. A woman in her 70s named Marie. Her daughter had bought her the tablet. The daughter filmed Marie opening it, following the setup instructions, her face showing concentration, then understanding, then pure joy. "I did it," Marie said in the video. "I actually did it." She started crying, happy tears. Her daughter was crying too. The video had millions of views by evening. Comments flooded in. People sharing their own stories, their own struggles with technology, their own parents or grandparents who had given up. "This is what we need," one comment said. "Technology that includes everyone, not just the young and tech-savvy." Another said, "My father is 83. He has never used a computer. I just ordered him this tablet. I cannot wait to see his face." The sales numbers climbed. 10,000 units, 20,000, 30,000. By the end of the first day, they had sold 50,000 tablets, more than any first-day launch in the company's history. Tech journalists wrote reviews, glowing reviews. "This is not just a product," one wrote. "This is a philosophy, a recognition that technology should serve all people, not just some people." Another wrote, "For years, companies have ignored older adults, treated them as irrelevant. This tablet proves that demographic is not only relevant, but eager for technology that respects their needs." The stock price jumped, investor confidence returned. The narrative shifted from the Connect Home disaster to the tablet triumph. Thomas watched it all unfold, feeling something between relief and disbelief. It was working. Actually working. Petra burst into his office. "Have you seen the numbers? The reviews? The social media?" He nodded, unable to speak. She hugged him. "We did it. You did it. Not me. All of us." That evening, the entire team celebrated. The office filled with laughter, music, relief. People who had doubted him congratulated him. People who had resisted change admitted they were wrong. Karel found him on the balcony, away from the noise, looking out at the city. "You should be in there, celebrating." "I will. I just needed a moment." Karel stood beside him. "You know what you did? You proved that decency is not a weakness, that caring about people is not naive, that doing the right thing can also be good business." Thomas looked at him. "I just tried to help. That is exactly what I mean." The celebration continued late into the night, but Thomas left early, went home, sat in his apartment, alone, quiet. He called home. Peter answered. "I saw the news, saw the videos. Everyone here is talking about you." Thomas smiled. "It feels strange, being known. You are still you, just doing bigger things. I hope so. You are. Trust me. I know you. Success has not changed you. Will not change you." They talked until Thomas felt grounded again, reminded of who he was, where he came from. The next morning, Victor called. "The board wants to meet." "When?" "This afternoon." Thomas felt his stomach tighten. Already? He had hoped for more time, more data, more proof. "Just come at 2. We will talk." The meeting was smaller this time. Just Victor, Helena, and 2 other board members, less formal, less intimidating. Thomas sat across from them, Marketa beside him. Victor spoke. 50,000 units in one day. Unprecedented demand. Reviews that competitors would kill for. Social media buzz that money cannot buy. He paused. "You delivered. Not just results, but proof. Proof that your approach works. Proof that we made the right choice." Helena added, "We owe you an apology. We doubted, we pressured, we threatened. But you were right, and we were wrong." Thomas shook his head. "You were not wrong to demand results, to expect accountability. That is your job. I respect that." Victor smiled. Gracious even in victory. That is rare. He leaned forward. "The board has voted, unanimously. Your position is secure. Your methods will be adopted company-wide. You have our full support. Moreover, we are promoting you. Chief Product Officer, a seat on the executive team, a voice in all major company decisions." Thomas felt dizzy. That is too much. Oh, it is what you have earned, what you deserve." Marketa spoke. "Say yes, Thomas." He looked at her, saw pride in her eyes, saw gratitude. "Say yes." He took a breath. "Yes." "Then it is decided," Victor said. "Welcome to the executive leadership team." The meeting ended. They shook hands, professional but warm. Thomas and Marketa left together, walked through the office. People congratulated him, smiled at him. He felt their respect, their genuine appreciation. In his office, he sat down heavily. Petra appeared with champagne. "Where did you get that?" "I have my sources." She poured 2 glasses. "To the Chief Product Officer. To the team. We did this together." They drank. She left to spread the news. Thomas sat alone with his thoughts. 6 months ago, he was a mechanic. Now he was a chief officer, an executive. Someone with real power, real influence. It should have felt triumphant. But instead, he felt something else. Responsibility. Not for himself, but for everyone who would use the products he helped create. For everyone like Anna and Emile and Marie. For everyone who had been left behind by technology. For everyone who deserved better. He thought about his father. About Joseph standing in that old garage. Teaching him that decent work mattered, that helping people mattered, that who you are matters more than what you have. His father had been right, had always been right. That evening, there was another celebration, bigger, fancier. The entire company invited. Speeches given, awards presented. Thomas was asked to speak. He stood before hundreds of people, cleared his throat. 6 months ago, I fixed a broken car on the side of a road. I had no idea that moment would lead here. To this, to all of you." He paused. "I am not special. I do not have elite education or technical genius. I am just someone who believes that people matter. All people. Not just the smart ones, not just the young ones, not just the wealthy ones. Everyone." He looked around the room. "That is what we proved with this tablet. That when we build for everyone, everyone benefits. When we design with empathy, we create products that succeed. When we prioritize people over profit, we get both." The room was shut, listening. "I want to thank everyone who believed in this vision, who worked late nights, who tested and retested, who refused to settle for good enough, who insisted on great." He saw Anna in the crowd, Emile beside her. Other Reality Lab participants invited to celebrate. But most of all, I want to thank the people who taught us what we needed to build. The people who struggled with our old products, who felt frustrated and inadequate, who told us the truth even when it was hard to hear. You made this possible. Applause filled the room, long and genuine. He stepped down. People approached, thanking him, congratulating him, telling him their own stories, how the tablet had helped their parents, their grandparents, themselves. It was overwhelming, beautiful, exhausting. Late in the evening, Markéta found him. "You did well tonight. Thank you. For everything. For believing in me when I did not believe in myself." She smiled. "I told you I saw potential. You just needed to see it too." They stood together, watching the celebration, watching people laugh and talk and connect. "This is what it is about," she said quietly. "Not the sales or the stock price or the awards. This. People being brought together. People feeling included. That is success." He nodded. "That is success." The party wound down. People left. The office emptied. Thomas stayed late, walking through the quiet halls, remembering his first day. How lost he had felt. How overwhelmed. How certain he would fail. So much had changed. But in important ways, nothing had changed. He was still the same person, still asking the same questions, still caring about the same things, just in a different place, with a bigger platform. He turned off the lights, locked the doors, walked out into the night. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new products to develop, new problems to solve. But tonight, he could rest, could feel proud, could know that he had made a difference. He called Petter one more time. "It is late," Petter said. "You should be celebrating." I did. Now I am going home. Good. Remember where home is. I will. Always. He meant it. No matter how far he went. No matter what he achieved. He would always remember the garage in Bystris, the simple lessons, the honest work, the man his father taught him to be. That was his foundation, his anchor, his truth. And nothing would ever change that. 3 months passed. The tablet continued to sell, exceeded all projections. The company's reputation fully recovered. Other products went through the reality lab, improved, launched successfully. The culture shifted, permanently. People asked different questions now, thought about users first, technology second. It became the standard, the expectation. Thomas settled into his role as Chief Product Officer, still learning, still growing, but more confident now, more certain of his place. One morning, Markéta called him to her office. She looked thoughtful, peaceful in a way he had not seen before. "I have been thinking," she said, "about what comes next. For the company. For me." He sat down, listening. "I started this company 15 years ago, poured everything into it, my time, my energy, my life. It became who I was." She looked out the window. "But lately I have been asking myself if that is healthy, if that is sustainable, if that is even what I want anymore." Thomas waited. She continued. "I am tired, not of the work, but of the weight, the constant pressure, the endless decisions, the responsibility for everything and everyone. I think it is time for me to step back. You are leaving. Not leaving. Transitioning. I want to move to a chairman role, advisor, mentor. Still involved, but not carrying everything." She looked at him. "I want you to be the next CEO." He stared at her. unable to process the words. Me? Yes. You have proven yourself. Not just with products, but with people, with leadership, with vision. You are ready. I am not ready. I barely understand half of what we do. You understand what matters. The rest you can learn, just like you have been learning. He shook his head. This is too much. Too fast. The board will never approve. The board suggested it. Victor called me last week. Said you were the obvious choice. Thomas stood, walked to the window, looked down at the city. Thought about how far he had come. How much he had changed. How much had changed around him. I need time to think. Take all the time you need. But know this. I would not offer if I did not believe you could do it, if I did not trust you completely. That evening, Thomas drove out of the city, back toward Bistris. He had not been home in months. Too busy. Too consumed with work. The countryside opened up before him, fields and forests, small towns, quiet roads. It felt like breathing after holding his breath for too long. He arrived in Bistris at sunset, drove past the bakery, past the school, past all the familiar landmarks, stopped in front of his garage. It looked the same, a little more weathered, but still standing, still his. He got out, walked to the door, used his old key. Inside, everything was as he left it. Tools in their places, workbenches clean, the smell of oil and metal. He sat on his old work stool, in the quiet, in the familiar. Felt tears come. Not sad tears. Something else. Gratitude, maybe. Or completion. The door opened. Petter walked in, carrying 2 beers. I saw your truck. Figured you could use company. They sat together. Drank in silence for a while. Finally, Petter spoke. You look different. Older, maybe. No, just different. Thomas smiled. I feel different. In a good way? I think so. Still figuring it out. Petter nodded. You going to tell me why you are here? Marketa wants me to be CEO. The whole company. Petter whistled low. That is big. Too big. Petter looked at him. Is it? You have been doing the job already, just without the title. This is different. This is everything. Your father used to say something. When opportunity knocks, you answer, even if you are scared, especially if you are scared. Thomas remembered. I know. So what are you afraid of? Failing. Letting people down. Not being enough. Petter smiled. You have been afraid of all that since you took the first job. Did not stop you then. This feels bigger, because it is bigger. But you are bigger too. You have grown, changed, become who you needed to be. Thomas thought about that, about the man who fixed Marketa's car, about how uncertain he had been, how small he had felt. That man was still inside him. But there was more now. More confidence, more capability, more courage. They finished their beers, talked about small things, the town, the people, the rhythm of life that continued unchanged. When Peter left, Thomas sat alone in the garage. His father's garage. 3 generations of honest work. He walked to the wall, where his father had hung a simple sign. It said, "Do good work, help people, be decent." That was the whole philosophy, the entire foundation. Nothing complicated, nothing sophisticated. Just basic human values. Thomas realized something. He had not abandoned those values. He had just found a bigger place to live them. The garage served dozens of people. The company could serve millions. Same values, different scale. He locked up, drove back to the city, made his decision. The next morning, he met with Marketa. "I will do it." She smiled. "I knew you would. But I have conditions. Name them. I want Karl as Chief Operating Officer. I want Petra as my Chief of Staff. I want the Reality Lab expanded to every product line. I want our mission statement to include serving all people, not just targeting profitable demographics. All people. Done. All of it. When do we announce? Next week. Board meeting first, then company-wide, then public. He nodded, feeling the weight of it. Feeling the excitement, too. The announcement happened exactly as planned. The board approved unanimously. The company reacted with overwhelming support. The public saw it as a bold move, a mechanic becoming CEO. The media loved the story, featured it everywhere. But Thomas did not pay much attention to the coverage. He was too busy working, learning, preparing. His first 100 days as CEO were intense. Meetings, decisions, strategy sessions. But he did not lose himself in it. Did not let the title change who he was. He still visited the Reality Lab every week, still talked to participants, still asked simple questions. He still called home, still visited Bystris, still remembered where he came from. On his 100th day, he gave his first major speech as CEO. A company-wide address, streamed to all offices, all employees. When I came here, I was lost, confused, certain I did not belong. Many of you felt the same about me, questioned whether I deserved to be here. He paused. I have learned something important. Belonging is not about credentials. It is not about education or background or fitting a certain image. Belonging is about values, about caring, about contributing, about making things better. He looked around the room. At Marketa sitting in the front row. At Karl and Petra, beside her. At Anna and Emil. At all the people who had supported him. We have built something special here. Not just a company, but a culture, a way of thinking, a commitment to serving all people, not just some, all. That is what I want us to protect, to nurture, to never lose, no matter how big we grow, no matter how successful we become. We remember why we exist, to help people, to make their lives easier, to include them, to respect them. That is our purpose. That is our promise. The room erupted in applause, long and genuine. After the speech, people lined up to talk to him, to share their own stories, their own journeys, their own moments of feeling like they did not belong. He listened to each one, gave each person time, made each one feel heard. Late that evening, he sat in his office, the CEO office now, even bigger than before, even more impressive. But he had decorated it simply, the photo of his father in the garage, a wrench from his old toolbox, a simple wooden sign that said, "Do good work, help people, be decent." His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Hello?" A woman's voice. Nervous. "Is this Thomas Novotny?" "Yes." "My name is Marie. You do not know me, but you changed my life." He remembered. The woman from the viral video. The 70-year-old who cried when she set up the tablet. "I remember. I just wanted to call and say thank you. Because of your tablet, I can video call my grandchildren. I can look up recipes. I can read the news. I feel connected to the world again. I did not do it alone. A whole team. No, you did it. Maybe others helped. But it was your vision, your belief that people like me matter, that we deserve technology that works for us." She paused. "You gave me back a part of my life I thought was gone. That is worth more than you know." They talked for a few more minutes. She told him about her grandchildren, her hobbies, her newfound confidence. When she hung up, Thomas sat in silence. That was why. That was the answer to every doubt, every fear, every moment of uncertainty. He was not just building products. He was changing lives. That night he slept deeply, peacefully, without the anxiety that had plagued him for months. He dreamed of the garage, of his father teaching him to fix an engine, showing him that every problem had a solution, that patience and care could fix almost anything, that people were worth the effort. He woke feeling ready for whatever came next, for whatever challenges waited, for whatever growth was still ahead. The journey from mechanic to CEO had been unlikely, improbable, almost impossible. But it had been real, and it had been right. Because in the end, it was not about the title, it was not about the success, it was about staying true to yourself, about bringing your values wherever you go, about believing that decency and empathy and caring about people are not weaknesses. They are strengths, the greatest strengths of all. Thomas walked to his window, looked out at the city, waking up. Millions of people starting their days, each one with their own struggles, their own hopes, their own need for things that worked, for products that respected them, for companies that cared. He would spend his career trying to serve them, not perfectly, but honestly, with the same values his father taught him, the same values that had brought him here. Do good work, help people, be decent. That was enough. That was everything. And as the sun rose over the city, Thomas Novotny smiled, ready for whatever came next, knowing that no matter where life took him, he would always be that mechanic who stopped to help a stranger on a quiet road. Because that was who he was, and nothing would ever change that.